have watched the Stoic videos. Never react. Control your emotions. Detach. Focus only on what you can control. You did the work. You took the cold showers. You sat silent in the room where they talked over you and called it strength. It was not strength. It was obedience, and you performed it on command. Every one of those rules was real once. Every one of them was altered before it reached you. What you have been practicing is not Stoicism. It is the house-trained version, the one built to keep you controllable, while better-positioned men walk past you and take what you talked yourself out of wanting. None of this was an accident. Someone changed the rules. Tonight you find out what they actually said and what they were quietly edited to make you become. Hear that as a diagnosis, not an opinion, not a take to argue with in the comments. A finding. There is a difference between a man who has mastered himself and a man who has been domesticated. And from the outside, the two look identical. Both are calm, both are quiet. Both absorb the insult without flinching. The difference is underneath. One of them cannot be moved. The other cannot move. You were trained toward the second and told it was the first. And here is the part that should stop you cold. The harder you worked at it, the worse it got. Most men fail their discipline and stay free by accident. They quit the routine, they break the silence, they never finish the training. You did not. You are here because you are one of the disciplined ones, the man who actually held the line, took the cold shower every morning, kept his mouth shut every time, mastered the rules the others abandoned. Which means you did not get a diluted dose. You got the full one. Your discipline is not unfinished. It is complete, perfectly, impressively complete, and aimed at the wrong target the entire time. You did not fall short of mastery. You achieved obedience and called it mastery. And the proof is that the more thoroughly you trained, the more controllable you became, while every day it felt like the opposite. The leash did not tighten against your effort. It tightened because of it. Sit with that, because everything that follows is the audit of a discipline you were proud of. There is a name for what was done to the philosophy you were handed. I am going to give you that name now, and make you wait for the full weight of it, because once you have it, you will not be able to stop seeing it. They did not ban the real Stoicism, and understand this precisely because it is the whole mechanism. They did not rewrite a single word of it either. They did not need to. The words are still there, every famous line intact. What changed was never the text. What changed was which parts got repeated until they became the whole philosophy, and which parts got quietly buried until no one remembered they were there. You teach, control your emotions 10,000 times and let courage go silent. You repeat, accept what you cannot control until action disappears underneath it. The dangerous half is never deleted. It is just never spoken until the harmless half is all that is left, and men call that Stoicism. I call it the quiet translation, not a rewriting, a selection. The most durable way to neutralize a dangerous idea is not to burn it. It is to keep every word and teach only the half that makes men easy to hold. Hold that phrase. We will return to it. So here is exactly how the next half hour runs, because I am not going to ask you to take any of this on faith. First, I prove the claim, and it needs proving, because telling you the most respected philosophy in the world was quietly gutted is worthless without evidence. The evidence is historical, short, and the part the soft channels bury, because the moment you know it, their entire product stops working. Do not treat it as a history lesson. Treat it as the receipt. You cannot see the forgery until you have seen the original being feared, hunted, and killed, so we look at that first. Then I take the 8 rules you already know, one at a time, and show you the precise edit made to each, what it said, what they buried, who profits from the silence. And at the end, the single thing all 8 were built to produce, and how to take it back, starting tomorrow. Proof first, then the 8 edits, then what was stolen. Because here is the claim the proof has to carry. Before the translation, there was the fear, and before the fear, there was blood. That is the part they cut from the story, and it is the only part that makes the rest undeniable. Forget the candle with Marcus Aurelius's face on it. Go back further, to the Rome of Nero and Domitian, and to a group of men that scholars later called the Stoic Opposition. It was not a formal party, and not an organized movement. It was a loose circle of senators and philosophers whose shared Stoic discipline gave their political refusal a terrifying backbone. The most prominent was Epictetus. He did not raise an army. He did something the emperor found far more threatening. He withdrew. He stopped attending the ceremonies. He refused to vote the way fear demanded. He declined the oaths other men swore to stay alive. And for the silent, immovable refusal of one man, Nero had him condemned to death. Stay with that, because it rearranges everything. A senator was executed not for what he said, but for what he would not perform. His stoicism did not make him quiet and manageable. It made him so ungovernable that a calm, unbroadcast refusal was treated as treason. Thrasea was famous for one sentence about the emperor who would kill him: "Nero can kill me, but he cannot harm me." That is the original Stoicism, not a sedative. A man, the most powerful person on earth, could not reach, could not bribe, could not frighten, and in the end could only kill the one move that proves he had already lost the man. He was not alone. Musonius Rufus, the teacher behind the circle, was driven from Rome's center of power, again and again tied to Rubellius Plautus, banished under Nero, exiled once more under Vespasian. Whether the charge was politics, association, or the philosophy itself, the pattern was unmistakable. His circle made rulers uncomfortable, and rulers kept removing it. As for Plautus, ancient sources report that when he was given the choice to flee or stand, his Stoic advisors counseled him to await death rather than live in fear, and a soldier killed him as he stripped for his midday exercise, composed and unhurried on his own ground. And later, when Domitian wore the purple, he expelled the philosophers from Rome, then from the whole of Italy. You do not drive an entire school of thought out of a country because it teaches men to feel less. You drive it out because it teaches men you cannot rule. And here is the figure who closes the circle, the one whose life is the whole thesis in a single body: Epictetus. The most important Stoic teacher of the era, after the martyrs, was a man born a slave, owned, for a time, by one of Nero's own administrators. A slave and an emperor, Epictetus and Marcus Aurelius, separated by the entire length of the Roman social order, practicing what is supposedly the same philosophy, ask the question the soft version cannot survive. How does one philosophy serve both the man in chains and the man on the throne? It does not. Not unless it is doing the same thing for both of them, making each one ungovernable in his own position. For the slave, freedom that no master could touch. For the emperor, restraint that no flatterer could corrupt. The same fire in both hands, that is what it was for, so they could not kill it. The school kept producing the ungovernable, and when you cannot destroy a thing, you do the next best thing. You perform the quiet translation. You keep Epictetus on the shelf and Marcus on the candle. You keep every famous line intact, and you change only what the lines are for. You take a philosophy that built men emperors could not rule, and you sand it, syllable by syllable, into a philosophy that builds men any manager can manage. Same words, hollowed meaning, sold back to the descendants of the men it once set free. That is the receipt. You have now seen the original feared, hunted, exiled, and killed, so you no longer have to wonder whether the soft version is a forgery. You know it is, because harmless men do not get senators executed and philosophers driven out of a country. So when I show you the edit made to each of the 8 rules, you are not hearing an opinion about Stoicism. You are reading the alterations against an original you have now watched with your own eyes. Now I will show you the translation, line by line, 8 rules. The 8 you were actually given, in the words you actually heard. For each one, the version they sold you, what it cost you, and what the original said before the translation buried it. I am not going to tell you what to do. I am going to show you what was taken. What you do with it is yours. Rule 1. Never argue, never defend, never react. The watered version tells you to never argue, never defend, never react, show nothing, freeze the face. The man who reacts has lost. That is not restraint. That is paralysis given a philosopher's name. You were not taught to choose your moment. You were taught to forfeit every moment in advance and call the forfeit discipline. Look at what Thrasea actually did. He reacted to Nero constantly by withdrawing, by refusing, by declining the oath. His non-reaction was the most aggressive political act of his life, a sheathed blade, and everyone in Rome could see its shape under the cloth. That is unbeatable. They cannot provoke you into the mistake that serves them. But what you were sold was not unbeatable. It was harmless. You did not become the man who cannot be provoked into error. You became the man who can be wronged at no cost, because everyone around you has learned that wronging you carries no price. Real restraint is a sheathed blade. What you were handed was no blade and a very calm face. Rule 2. Control your emotions. The watered version tells you to control your emotions, feel less, go cold, cauterize the feeling until nothing reaches you. That is not control. That is self-mutilation, marketed as mastery. A surgeon who removes the nerve does not cure the pain. He removes the warning, and the body dies of the thing it could no longer feel coming. The instruction to feel less and the instruction to not be controlled through what you feel sound identical and are opposites. A man who feels nothing is not free of manipulation. He is the easiest mark alive because he has unplugged the one instrument that tells him when something is wrong. Your anger in that meeting was information. It was reporting a breach. The translation told you to cut the wire instead of reading the signal. The original never said feel less. It said your feelings will not be available as handles for other men to grab. Feel the anger in full and let no one steer you with it. The full instrument under your command, usable by no one else. Notice the structure because it repeats. Every one of these forgeries keeps the posture and removes the power, the calm without the threat, the control without the instrument. The man who feels nothing is not hard to manage. He is already managed. He disabled his own alarm and called the silence peace. Rule 3. Emotionally detach from someone. This is the largest one in the entire genre. Search how to emotionally detach from someone and 1,000 videos answer how to detach, how to become unbothered, how to need no one. It is the most sold instruction in the modern Stoic economy, and it is the most quietly destructive thing they have ever put in a man's hand. The watered version tells you to emotionally detach from someone, care about nothing, need no one, arrive at a place where nothing and no one can touch you. That is not detachment, that is amputation, rebranded as enlightenment, the removal of every tie a man has, sold to him as peace. So you pulled back from the friend, from the woman, from the people who would have stood at your side, and you named the loneliness wisdom. The original was narrow and surgical. Detach from what you cannot control. The opinions of people who do not matter, the outcome you cannot force, the verdict of the crowd. That cuts the strings other men use to puppet you through your hunger to be liked. But the translation widened the word. It quietly stretched detach from outcomes into detach from everyone. And a man with no allies, no one who would notice him go under, is not strong. He is isolated prey. The first thing a predator does is separate one animal from the herd. The translation did the predator's work for free and got the prey to do it to himself and feel wise doing it. Who benefits when you detach from everyone? Ask it cold. Not you, the man who wants you without allies when he moves. The structure that finds an isolated man infinitely easier to process than a connected one. Solitude was sold to you as sovereignty. It was delivery. The real man detaches from the verdict of those who do not matter and binds himself tighter to the few who do. The translation cut the wrong strings. It cut the ones holding you up. This is the recognition landing. Let it. The next rule is the one that has cost you actual money. Rule 4. Focus only on what you can control. This is the most quoted sentence in the philosophy. You have heard it 10,000 times. It is painted on gym walls, recited at the head of every video, inked on forearms, and it is the single most effective instrument of pacification ever handed to a working man. Focus only on what you can control. You own your thoughts and your actions and nothing else, the teaching goes. So make peace with all the rest. Your pay, your treatment, your position, the men profiting off your labor. That is not focus. That is a tranquilizer with a Roman accent, the most elegant sedative ever handed to a man who had every reason to move. External, it says, outside your control. Release it. Breathe. Do your morning routine. Now do something with me. Take that piece of wisdom you have accepted without ever inspecting it. Focus only on what you can control and ask the one question that breaks it open. Who benefits from you believing that? Trace it to the bottom. Who profits when a capable man decides his wage, his standing, and the people extracting from him are simply external matters to be met with serenity? Not him. The employer who never has to raise the pay of a man who has philosophically surrendered the right to ask. The colleague who keeps the credit. The whole structure above him that needs his labor and fears his ambition and has found a way to make him disarm that ambition himself and thank a dead emperor for the peace. Stay with that, because it is the entire machine in one move. The original dichotomy was a weapon for action, not a tranquilizer. Stop bleeding force onto what is genuinely fixed, so you can pour all of it onto what actually moves. It concentrated power. The translation did one small, devastating thing. It widened the category of what you cannot control until it swallowed everything you were simply not permitted to touch. Your wage became weather. Your treatment became fate. Things entirely within reach got reclassified as things to accept, and serenity was handed to you as the consolation prize for your own dispossession. The list of what you cannot control is the most political sentence in your life. Someone else has been writing that list for you. The original handed you the pen. Forget the philosophy for a moment. Look at your actual week. Find the one thing you have filed under out of my control, that you filed there because fighting for it frightened you, not because it was fixed. You know the thing. You have known it the whole time. The translation gave you permission to call your fear acceptance. Rule 5. Let go of the outcome. Let go of the outcome, they tell you. Want nothing, expect nothing, release your grip on ambition, and find peace in the present. That is not wisdom. That is a ceiling sold as a horizon. A man talked into mistaking his own surrender for the summit. The enlightened man, it promises, desires nothing and is therefore content. You can predict the cut now. The translation sold the powerless, a philosophy of wanting less. Consider who that serves. A population of men talked out of wanting more is the most stable, lowest maintenance, most profitable population there is. They do not agitate. They do not compete for the higher seat. They pre-surrendered, did it to themselves, and called it enlightenment, when what they reached was a quiet, permanent ceiling. The original never said want nothing. It said, want without being owned by the wanting, pursue the outcome with everything in you, and stay intact whether or not it arrives, so no one can use your desire as a leash to drag you. This is the rule that holds the whole reconstruction in miniature, so mark it here. What I do not need, they cannot take. The translation inverted, that it taught you to stop wanting anything worth taking, which is surrender, wearing the mask of freedom. The original did the opposite, want the thing in full and refuse to need it, so no one can dangle it or withhold it to move you. The free man is not the one who wants nothing. He is the one who wants everything and can be controlled through none of it. A man who wants nothing is not free. He is finished, and someone convinced him the finish line was wisdom. Rule 6. Embrace discomfort. Never quit. Never settle. Embrace discomfort. Never quit. Never settle. Suffering is virtue. Hardship is holy. The more you endure, the stronger you grow. That is the promise. It is also the most expensive lie in the genre, because what it produces is a man taught to thank the thing that is bleeding him, to mistake the wound for the forge. The 80-hour week becomes a badge, and he posts about the grind and never once asks who set the hours. The original was precise and narrow. Choose discomfort, the cold, the fast, the hard bed, so that comfort cannot be used against you, so no one can threaten to remove your softness and make you obey. It was never an instruction to accept the suffering other men impose on you. The translation blurred the two. It took, I choose hardship so comfort cannot be used against me, and stretched it into all hardship is good, so accept the hardship done to you. The discomfort you choose is a key. The discomfort they impose is a chain. They sold you the chain wearing the key's name. Rule 7. Remember you will die. Memento mori. Remember you will die. Memento mori. And then watch the wrong conclusion get drawn from it. Nothing matters in the end. We are all dust. So release your striving and find peace in your smallness. That is not wisdom. That is the most beautiful sedative ever built, because it takes the one fact that should set a man sprinting and uses it to sit him down. It sounds like depth. It functions as an off switch. Look at what death actually did to the men who held the real version. It did not calm them. It set them on fire. Go back to Rubelius Plautus, stripping for his exercise as the soldier arrived, refusing to spend his last hour running. His awareness of death did not make him passive. It made him sovereign over the one thing left how he met it. The original memento mori was a goad. Your time is finite, so act. Strip away the trivial. Move now because there is no later. A man who has truly absorbed that his time is running out cannot be made to wait quietly for a recognition that may never come. The translation took that fire and turned it to ash, converted your time is running out. So act into nothing matters. So relax. Who benefits from a man who believes nothing matters? Everyone who needs him not to act. Death does not make a free man smaller, it makes him faster. Rule 8. Never complain, never explain. Move in silence. The last one, and it closes the circle back to Thrazi. Never complain, never explain. Move in silence. A real man suffers without a word. The closed mouth is strength. Endurance is dignity, that is the teaching. And it is the one that closes the trap, because it removes your last instrument, your voice. That is not silence. That is absorption dressed as discipline, a man quietly accepting every cost and mistaking the swallowing for strength. Now, I have to be precise here, because on this channel you have heard me say it. Do not explain yourself. Do not complain. I stand on that. But here the distinction the watered version exists to hide, because there is not one silence, there are two, and they do opposite work. The first silence is opacity. You do not explain yourself to the crowd, the critic, the man testing you for a reaction, the colleague fishing for the thing that rattles you. You give them nothing because they are owed nothing, and every word of justification is a map handed to someone who will use it. That silence is a weapon. Keep it. That is what this channel has always meant by do not explain. The second silence is the counterfeit, the silence you keep toward the person actively taking from you. The credit stolen, the line crossed, the cost incurred, where you say nothing to the one responsible and call it being above it. That is not opacity. That is a man being robbed quietly. When you never name the cost to the person who caused it, the cost is never billed. No record exists, and the pattern repeats forever because nothing in the room ever registered that it happened. Your silence did not protect you, it protected them. Look at Thrazi. He gave the audience nothing, but he withdrew his presence, his vote, his oath from the one man who demanded them, and Nero understood the bill exactly. Opacity to Rome. Clarity to the emperor. That is the whole of it. Withhold the explanation from everyone merely watching, and deliver the cost, precisely and privately, to the one who is actually responsible. The watered version collapsed the two into a single silence pointed at everyone, which leaves you opaque to the crowd and defenseless against the one person you most needed to register your existence. There is a video on this channel about the law of distance, why the things a man truly values are the things he refuses to advertise, and how silence toward the crowd becomes a weapon rather than a wall. It is the other half of what you are learning now. Watch it next. What you withhold from the crowd is opacity. What you withhold from the man who wronged you is just permission. The translation taught you to give everyone the same silence. One of them was never meant to receive it. Now, the quiet translation, you have the whole shape of it. They could not kill the philosophy, so when force failed, they reached for something subtler and far more lasting. They did not burn the books. They did not need to touch them. They kept every famous line and simply chose which half of each one to repeat. Never react, kept the stillness, and buried the threat underneath it. Focus only on what you can control, kept the serenity, and buried the part about concentrating your force to strike. Detach kept the distance from the crowd and buried the loyalty to the few. Every line survived whole. Half of every line went unspoken for so long that men forgot the half had ever existed until the harmless remainder was all anyone could see, and the same 8 rules that once built a man emperors had to kill now build a man any manager can keep. That is the quiet translation, the most elegant theft in the history of ideas. They did not take the words, they took which half of the words you were allowed to hear and left you reciting the harmless one. And now understand what that means, because it is worse than softening. The version that reached you is not a weaker copy of the same philosophy. It is a different philosophy, built for a different man, wearing the same words. There has always been a version of this for the man giving the orders and a version for the man taking them. They share every famous line. They produce opposites. And there is one way to tell which copy you were handed. Look at what it asks of you. If your Stoicism makes you accept, endure, quiet down, and want less, you were given the servant's copy. If it made you concentrate, act, and become impossible to command, that was the master's copy, and you have never held it. The philosophy did not just get diluted on its way to you, it sorted you. It read your position in the hierarchy and handed you the edition written to keep you there. Nobody believes the wisdom he went looking for was assigned to him by his rank. That is exactly why it works. So let me hold the real thing up against the version you were fed, and you tell me which one you were trained in. Marcus Aurelius ran an empire through plague and 20 years of war and buried most of his children. Did he hold the line by detaching from outcomes and letting go? Or by carrying a weight that would have broken any soft man and acting anyway every single day? Frederick the Great read his Marcus Aurelius annotated in the saddle on campaign. With his throne riding on battles he could lose by nightfall, did he embrace discomfort with a 15-minute cold plunge before a smoothie? Or by sleeping in the freezing mud beside men who might not survive the morning? And James Stockdale shot down over Vietnam, his legs snapped by the men who captured him, the same crippled leg as Epictetus, whose handbook he had memorized, spent 7.5 years in the Hanoi Hilton, 4 of them in solitary, and the night before they came to torture a confession out of him, he nearly took his own life rather than be used. Did he control what he could control from a nicely lit studio between sponsorships? And here is the part that should end the argument. When Stockdale was asked which prisoners did not make it out, he said it was the optimists, the men who kept saying we will be home by Christmas. And Christmas came and went, and Easter came and went, and they died of broken hearts. That is the watered version, named by a man who watched it kill people. Stay positive, accept it, wait quietly. The men who practiced the soft stoicism you were sold did not endure that cell. They died in it. The men who practiced the real one walked out. And here is the single aim underneath all 8 rules, the thing the whole philosophy was built to produce, and the soft version exists to prevent. 1. Outcome. A man over whom no external force has command. Not a man who rules others, a man who cannot be ruled, cannot be baited, bought, frightened, isolated, or talked out of wanting. The sole author of his own conduct. That is what Thrasea was when he told Nero he could be killed but not harmed. That is what Epictetus was, as a slave who owned the one thing his master could not reach. It is what every one of the 8 rules was originally engineered to build, and it is precisely what the translation was performed to destroy, because that man is useless to anyone who profits from your obedience. Pause on that. The instructions did not change. The outcomes were inverted. The same 8 rules now run in reverse, and you have been living inside the reversal, doing the work, taking the cold showers, congratulating yourself on your own domestication. And now the hardest thing I will say to you, because it is about the one quality you were most certain was an achievement: your calm. You came to this philosophy to become calm, and somewhere along the way you got there, and you thought the calm was the prize. It was never the prize. Calm was never the goal of Stoicism. It was the symptom of something underneath it, and the soft version sold you the symptom with nothing beneath it. Real calm is what total readiness looks like from the outside. The Stoic was calm the way a loaded weapon is still, not because there is nothing in it, but because everything in it is under command. You were sold the stillness and never given the load. So you built the surface of the strong man over an empty chamber, and you cannot tell the difference, because from the outside there is none. Carl Jung drew the line exactly. A man is not good because he is harmless. A harmless man is just a man who has never gone down into the basement and met the thing that lives there, never found out what he is capable of, and mistakes never having been tested for having mastered himself. The man Jung respected was the one who went down, found the monster, looked at it in full, and walked back up holding its leash. He is not gentle because he has no capacity for violence. He is gentle because he has all of it integrated under his own hand and chooses. That is the calm of Marcus, of Stockdale in the cell. It is the stillness of a man who has met everything he is and governs it. And here is the vertigo. The surrendered man and the sovereign man wear the same calm face. One has been down to the basement and runs what he found there. The other has simply never opened the door and calls the silence behind it peace. The watered version made sure you never went down. It kept you upstairs, calm, harmless, and proud of it, and told you the locked basement door was enlightenment. You did not master the monster. You were taught to pretend you do not have one, and a man who will not meet what he is can be moved by anyone who has met theirs. So here is what changes tomorrow morning, because recognition without application is only a more sophisticated way of staying where you are. When the sentence arrives in your head, focus only on what you can control. You will ask one question before you obey it. Is this genuinely fixed? Or have I been taught to file it there because reaching for it frightens me? That question alone returns half of what was taken. When someone wrongs you and the blank face descends from habit, you will know the difference between a sheathed blade and no blade. Stillness is permitted. Harmlessness is not. The person responsible becomes aware of the cost quietly, precisely on your timing. And when the urge comes to go silent and suffer it like a good Stoic, you will separate the audience from the guilty party. The crowd gets your opacity. The man who caused it gets the bill in full, without heat and without apology. You are not becoming colder. You were already cold. They made you that way. You are becoming ungovernable, which is the only thing this philosophy was ever for. And there is a sentence the men who reach it keep, the operating principle of the whole reconstruction. What I do not need, they cannot take. Every lever ever used on you ran through something you believed you needed. The approval, the comfort, the result, the peace of staying quiet. Strip the need, and you strip the lever in the same motion. The man who does not need it cannot be moved through it. Say it once now. What I do not need, they cannot take. If it has already become true for you, type it in the comments. If you intend to make it true, type it anyway, as a vow, because a vow witnessed is a vow that costs something to break. And the men who keep their nerve are already saying it out loud. The 8 rules were never the problem. The Stoics were never the enemy. The philosophy that built a slave into the freest man in Rome and kept an emperor from being corrupted by absolute power is the same philosophy that can make you ungovernable, but only in the original language, before the quiet translation buried it. Now you have the original. You will not be able to unhear the difference. Every time someone hands you the soft version from here on, you will see the exact seam where the meaning was changed, and you will know precisely who that change was built to serve. You came here calm, you leave dangerous. That was always what it was for. This is your cold awakening.